What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So it turns out a Forza game might actually be coming to the Switch. Maybe there were some interesting findings that do seem to point to the Switch being involved in some way with this Forza game, and we're going to go over that a bit. We also talked a bit about Borderlands 3 because they showed it off, and there was a lot of confusion around microtransactions, or what are they exactly? Because originally it was said that there weren't going to be microtransactions, apparently now there are, but no loot boxes. It's kind of all over the place right now. I figured we'd go over that as well. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure the like button, it does help out, and get subscribed as we head towards 300,000 subscribers. We're going to actually start today with something called Pokemon Pass. It's a new application that's out on Android and iOS. I believe it's currently just in the US from what I've seen, but it is now out. It was originally rumored, and the idea was to pretty much be able to give out like location-specific prizes, or originally they'd give you little codes and stuff if you went to stores for different things like shiny Pokemon, for example. That's going to be apparently the first thing that Pokemon Pass uses, where you actually go to the store and then you scan a QR code and you will get some sort of prize or a special event like Pokemon or skin or something. But we used to kind of have this back in the day where you take your whole Game Boy to like a Pokemon location that they had set up and you would get like a Mew. That was like the legit way to get a Mew back in the day. And then they of course eventually evolved to where you just get codes, and now we're at the point where you take this application and you go get different things. Like right now, from May 11th into June, you'll be able to go to a participating Target, scan a QR code with your phone, and then you will get the shot at a shiny Eevee or a shiny Pikachu for Pokemon Let's Go. So those kind of games will be in effect here. Pokemon Let's Go, Pokemon Go. I assume something with the new Pokemon Sword and Shield will eventually be used here as well. It's just a way for them to have collaborations with local stores, and that actually kind of helps them out. And of course, helps the stores out because you have a reason to go in, and then if you're in Target, maybe you say, okay, well, I guess I needed that extra case for my 3DS or 2DS or something, or something. Usually if you go in, they would think you're going to buy something, so that's the way to do it. But either way, a cool idea there to have something extra for fans of the Pokemon games. We also had Game Pass announced for May, so we have the entire lineup that we're going to go over. But on the flip side, something to always keep in mind with Game Pass is generally games will also leave that month. And while generally it's nothing too crazy, I have to say, in May, they're actually pulling some pretty good games. I'm actually going to go through them real quick with you. They have a full list set up here, and you'll see at the top, Mega Man Legacy Collection and MotoGP 17 are the two Xbox One games. But if you go to the 360, they're taking away Comic Jumper, Missplosion Man, and then The Force Unleashed 1 and 2, which is kind of a bummer because we're going into obviously a time where Star Wars is going to be at an all-time high for people wanting to play and everything. And the only reason I can think of that is because they're just pulling it away, since we're going to have, of course, Jedi Fallen Order, but it's still a bit of a shame there. But if we jump over to what they're adding, there's some pretty good ones here. These are all coming in May for Game Pass, starting with Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, May 2nd. Wargroove, which is awesome to see that one show up. That's also going to be May 2nd. So right away, today, those two will be added. Wargroove is awesome. I would check that one out, definitely. Descenders 1.0, May 7th. Surviving Mars, May 9th. Tacoma, another good one, May 9th. Black Desert, also May 9th. For the King, May 10th. The Surge, another interesting one that I actually want to check out a bit more as well, May 16th. Lego Batman 3, which is a really fun game, May 16th. So they are adding quite a few good ones there, but removing, remember, 6 other ones. Keep that in mind. But definitely check out a few of these like Wargroove in Game Pass if you already have it. Sticking with the PlayStation Plus games that are happening in May, we talked about games with gold yesterday, and I was a bit disappointed, right? I didn't think it was very good, but man, PlayStation Plus it's almost as bad. I can't say it's as bad, it's almost as bad. So 2 games. Remember, we cut down because we're not doing Vita or PlayStation 3 stuff really anymore. It's just PS4 stuff. So you assume that the value is going to be higher, but it doesn't seem to be. These seem to be 2 cheaper games that they're giving away. Now, Overcooked is one of them, and I like Overcooked, but it's the first one, which again, weird. Great game, right? I liked Overcooked a lot. Another one I didn't have a lot of experience with myself, which is What Remains of Edith Finch. People seem to really like the game, but I was never really into those type of games like Gone Home and everything, but Overcooked is great. I think definitely people should check that one out. I just look at these 2 games and I say, that's weird that they just have two games that aren't really valued that high for PlayStation Plus when they've actually eliminated games off of it. So hey, maybe Microsoft and Sony are gearing up for June, E3 of course, E3 month. While Sony's not going to be active, supposedly, they could still drop some pretty good games in PlayStation Plus, and I definitely expect Microsoft to deliver at E3 time. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're going to start with Forza right away because, well, Microsoft and Nintendo, of course, have this weird relationship where Microsoft's just putting games on Nintendo system just because they'll sell. Like Cuphead sold really well, it seems. It's always at like the top for like the eShop charts and everything, so I assume it's doing pretty well. Of course, Minecraft is very big there also, as we actually see it in the media create sales charts, or at least we did until they stopped doing that. I saw it up there quite a bit, and I do see that one as well in the eShop charts all the time. So to hear that they could be bringing a Forza game over isn't surprising. However, the one that appears like it could be coming over might be a bit of a disappointment for some people, as it looks like it would be the free-to-play Forza Street game. Now, this was originally a game called Miami Street, and then they changed up the title, and it's going to Android and iOS devices as well. So it's already like destined for mobile processors and everything. So I think if you consider the idea of it going to the Switch, which is a system that doesn't really have a lot of like simulation-based racing games, right? I mean, there's Gear Club, but Gear Club feels kind of like a mobile game, to be honest. So they're definitely missing some sort of game like that. What Grid is coming, and that at least looks better. But there's definitely a lack of simulation racing style games. Mario Kart, of course, is more arcadey and everything, so I don't really consider that in that same category. So to see something like this would make sense, but this actual coding that you're seeing here that points out several instances of Nintendo's system, Nintendo Switch being pointed out in yellow, all over the place, and this is from AR12 Gaming, and you'll just see several of them. Link Nintendo Switch Device ID, for example. Unlink Nintendo Switch Device ID. Basically, the Switch is added. It's added and it's mentioned several times in the coding here, which, yes, I mean, we've seen this before with other games. Remember, we talked about Red Faction Remastered, how we did see like mention of the Switch in the code, and then we also saw mention of controls, and then months later, here it is on the Switch, or at least coming out this summer. So I wouldn't be shocked, right, to see this. I mean, it's not even like it's a massive Forza game for Microsoft, and would probably run fine on the Switch since it's going to like mobile platforms with Android and iOS. Probably no issue doing that. So would people play it? Free-to-play Forza Street? Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't think that would be a game that kind of goes unnoticed on the Switch just because of the lack of simulation racing, and it's free. I think it would at least do well enough. I'd be curious how they would get, I guess with the analog triggers and stuff, I guess they would just make it work. I mean, touchscreen, I guess you could use the right stick. It would be how it would work there with the, I guess, just the Pro Controller, but still, we'll see. It wouldn't be my favorite simulation race game. Honestly, I'm looking forward to Grid to see how that turns out. But, I mean, it couldn't hurt to have it come over. Next up, let's talk about Borderlands 3. They did the full gameplay reveal, and I have to say, looks like Borderlands. It's exciting stuff. They had some really cool things that they showed there, and I'm really excited for the game when it comes out later this year, because some of the stuff they showed was cool, where you go to like different planets and everything. It looks like the ultimate Borderlands. It actually looks like an evolution of Borderlands, without going too far, right? That's the thing. I think it's keeping its core concepts and ideas, and I'm really excited to play it. But what's interesting about this situation is before, we didn't think there would be microtransactions, and a lot of it has to do with, of course, Randy Pitchford saying that there wouldn't be microtransactions. Okay, and actually there's a direct quote that several places actually picked out from him saying, and I'm sure we're going to do all kinds of fun customization like heads and skins, but we're not doing any of that free-to-play junk. There's not going to be any microtransactions, there's not going to be any kind of that nonsense. Now from there, creative director for Borderlands 3, Paul Sage, actually said that there would be microtransactions, just not really the kind that a lot of people get annoyed about, mostly cosmetic stuff. But Randy didn't seem to like, I guess, some of the articles that were being written about it, specifically one from Game Informer, where he kind of yelled at them a bit on Twitter. But I mean, he definitely said, yeah, no microtransactions. So I guess what's happening here, from what we're seeing, he doesn't consider it to be a microtransaction unless I guess it affects gameplay or alters the course of the game where you're getting like a whole weapon or something. I guess because it's a skin or a costume, it doesn't necessarily count as a microtransaction. However, I kind of look at that as a microtransaction. It's a transaction that costs a little bit of money or a micro amount of money. That's a microtransaction. So I'm not really sure. I feel like they just got caught here in saying something they shouldn't have, or they should have worded it differently or clarified further before they just said that on stage and said, yeah, no microtransactions, except that, if you want to buy skins and stuff, technically you could do that, but no microtransactions. So yeah, it's a confusing thing happening right now, and the real problem is Gearbox, of course, has been in with issues with Aliens Colonial Marines before, so it's not like this is like a first-time thing or something. So people are already wary of the situation, and people are already wary of microtransactions in general, so I get why people are jumping on it pretty quickly. But yes, here's what's happening. There will be microtransactions. It's going to be cosmetic. It won't affect gameplay, so you're not buying guns or full-on vehicles or anything like that, and you'll be able to play through the full game straight up, and it does look really good. But with 2K, I'm not really surprised that there be microtransactions. I guess as long as it stays cosmetic, I think most fans of the series are going to learn to live with them, right? I don't think it's going to be game-breaking for a lot of them. Just we'll see how crazy they get with it. That's going to be the big thing, and if it's all able to be earned in-game. That's the other question. Next up, let's talk about Earthworm Jim, because apparently a new one's happening. I know, I couldn't believe it either. When I saw this pop up in the news, I was shocked. But apparently there is a new Earthworm Jim coming, but it's not going to be on a system you own right now. It's going to be on the Amico. That's the new Intellivision game. And it's weird to see that Intellivision would have a new game system. We've talked about this before, right? Where they were going to have an Amico. It was this weird announcement. And it's weird because it's not coming out till October 10th of 2020, I believe. So it was already a ways off. But the one thing I mentioned was that they need to have some kind of game or something to sell it. They said they mostly want to do 2D games and lower cost games, like things that are under $10. And it has to be pretty easy, I guess, for everyone to really enjoy. So Earthworm Jim, $10 or less, new console. That's the thing. I don't know if people are going to be on board with just straight up buying a system to play Earthworm Jim, but I think there are people who are already at least curious about this. Now, they announced this in a full-on press release, and it doesn't give much more information outside of them doing a new Earthworm Jim with the original Earthworm Jim team uniting after 25 years at the initial release. And apparently they're coming together to create a brand new Earthworm Jim exclusively for the upcoming Intellivision Amico game console. I have my questions about the system, but the one way you get people on board is to bring exclusives that people will enjoy. And if some people are really big Earthworm Jim fans, well, I guess they're getting an Intellivision Amico. I don't know if they have any other surprise announcements up their sleeve, but this is a good one to start with, so we'll see if they have anything else really big. No gameplay or screenshots or anything yet. We'll just have to wait and see what they have for us. And our last bit of news, let's talk about the Mad Box. Remember how we had the Mad Box that was announced by Slightly Mad Studios? People do Project Cars and everything, and it was a weird idea and concept, even thought process to do this, but they wanted to do it. They wanted to make a game console that was like a high-end game console. They wanted to call it the Mad Box, and it looked absolutely insane. But hey, they were going to take a shot at it. They said they had investors, they had the money, at least it seemed like they did. Well, apparently the Google Stadia announcement messed everything up. Apparently they threw a wrench into the process here. And they actually talked with quite a few places about investors actually pulling out, saying, Google's announcement of Stadia hasn't helped the project with our investors. We had some solid investment lined up, but Google saying the future of gaming isn't in a box hasn't done us any favors. And that's from their online marketing director, Nathan Bell, who is obviously working to market this project, this box. And yeah, I mean, if Google tells investors who are probably not like in the know with a lot of game consoles and stuff like that, they're just investing money, and they tell them, this big company, Google, is like, the future's not in a little box, guys. It's in the cloud, right? It's in the game streaming. I mean, yeah, I could see some investors probably get scared off. Honestly, I question who would invest in the Mad Box, because they even pulled their trademark for it because it could be confusing with apparently another place just called Mad Box, but no space, just one word. So it seems like the project itself probably isn't a great idea for a studio like Slightly Mad to try. Apparently they want to. I wouldn't try it. I don't think it's worth doing. But we'll see if they go forward with it without these investors, or they can convince them that the future is in their box. I don't know. It seems like a bad idea at this point if investors are already kind of on the fence, because honestly, I don't think it's going to do that well when it comes out. I think it's going to be confusing to the consumer. And again, we just talked about the Amico. What exclusives are they? Is it Project Cars? Because I don't think Project Cars is going to sell systems like that. And let's finish up today with the comment of the day from yesterday. This one actually comes from Joey saying, Borderlands 2 is on the Vita. The fact that a single Borderlands game has made its way to the Switch shocks me. It's a perfect fit for the console. Well, Borderlands 2, I remember on the Vita, was not done very well. I played it on there and it was not great. The frame rate was really low. It would actually even crash sometimes. It just had a hard time on that system. What's interesting though is, I believe that was Iron Galaxy, so that wasn't their best port job done there. But then people managed to overclock the Vita and it actually started running better, much more tolerable. So I do think, honestly, if they took Borderlands 2, similar to what they did with the Vita, moved it to the Switch, it would probably run a million times better. It would probably be fine. So yeah, I don't get it either. Again, it has to be funding, it has to be money. They are probably looking for Nintendo, I think, to publish it in some way physically, although they could probably just get away with doing a digital release straight up, and most people will probably be fine. If it's that or nothing, I think people will live with it. But either way, I would put Borderlands on the Switch. I mean, just to see if it sells. I think it will sell at least a couple 100,000 copies, I think, without too much issue. So Gearbox, 2K, Take-Two, they would just have to make it happen, and we'll see if they will. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button. Really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is Forza Street on the Switch. Would you be okay with something like that, or do you just want one of the other ones? You would like Horizon 3, Horizon 4, or I guess Forza Motorsport 7. Those, of course, we paid for. This would be a free-to-play one. I'm curious if people actually are thinking more along the lines of a free-to-play Forza being a bit better for them. I'm curious about that. And then also let me know what you think about the microtransaction controversy around Borderlands 3. Do you think they're just trying to change the definition of microtransaction because they slipped up on stage? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.